When you lose a game with 100% kill participation, you want to be told, hey, it's not your fault. And you know what? It isn't. Now that you're done feeling better about yourself, remember a lot of the principles that allow someone in Challenger to lose a game with 100% kill participation are the reason why 99.9% of you, to lose games, you should be winning. Let me show you exactly what that means. The enemy jungler is the Fiddlesticks and he's starting on his red. He's going to full clear down. It's going to hit 323, the Graves is already done and you can look at the wave states. Azir's pushing in the Victor in the mid lane, Volibear's pushing in the Sion in the top lane, and bottom lane is kinda neutral. Until you actually, F key and look at bot lane, oh wait a second, I have prio. So you're able to push the Fiddlesticks off of the scuttle. You clear faster, you got the bottom prio, free scuttle crab, you take some HP from him, you say, go back to where you came from, demon, and then you cross mid lane for the double scuttle. It's at this point as a jungler, you are feeling good about yourself. We've got some prio, Victor was able to rebound a little bit of that pressure and push it himself. Fiddlesticks is going to be forced to go back to base, head to the top side to take his respawn and sequence all the way down. This gives you a lot of power. However, when you do double scuttle, you sometimes want to think about, hey, can I gank this top laner before the enemy jungler is able to rotate over? Especially important because you haven't paid for items and he has. In this particular case, the Volibear had already moved down to ward. That's something you need to track. We'll have the footage collector show the Volibear doing exactly that from the game. This means that if Graves is going to do that, 99% the Volibear is going to disconnect, and that's not good. We know we're seeing. Let's just go back to base and buy. What this does mean, however, due to the double scuttle, you are behind on full clear tempo. That means the Fiddlesticks has already begun a second clear. Yes, he lost out on a scuttle, but he's going to be able to loop all the way down to the bottom side before you will be able to do so. And then he decides to head to Virkayu.gg. Not only do I have a free jungle improvement resource, I also have a dedicated program with jungle video courses, jungle coaching classes, a jungle VOD library. We already have a lot of community VOD reviews and coaching classes for Season 15, sharing all the tips and tricks to reach new peaks in this season. All the fundamentals you need for right now are available in a ridiculous amount of hours for content tailored for your MMR so you can climb to reach your peak rank as fast as possible. So to hit your peak rank in Season 15 and jungle diff every game you play, head to the link in the description below or to Virkayu.gg. And while this Graves is going to have a really rough game, I'm preparing you now mentally. No matter how well you jungle, sometimes what you do doesn't matter. However, when you look at the VOD review, in this case, you see him rotating up to try and do something about the Volibear. But this is where I don't always like to rotate, purely because the top side quadrant has no counter jungle ability, the grubs are nowhere near available for us to take, and the Fiddlesticks can just full clear down, no stress, get a dragon, gank bot lane. I need to be able to match that somehow. The other option is to look at the timers, 5 minute 30 wave, the dude's gonna get the kill, he's gonna be level 6. There's no point for me rotating there. I need to focus on matching the Fiddlesticks and denying him and protecting my bot lane, the only lane that seemingly has some sense of control. Which means you see on the map here we're sequencing all the way down and we can cut in to counter gank the Fiddlesticks whenever necessary. We can ping and communicate to our bottom lane, or we can simply say, hey look, he's doing dragon, let me kill him and take it anyway. There's a lot of ways you can play this. Worst case scenario, again, as you see on the map here, is that the arrow will simply loop back and say, look, I full cleared down, I can do nothing about bot lane dying and the Fiddle taking the dragon, but I can cut back up and do the grubs quickly. As we cut back to live footage, that's exactly the kind of position you want to be in, just because, even though it's not the best sort of, hey, look, there's someone you might be able to kill in the top lane play, it is a, look, I got many different options I can use to gain a lead for myself and for my laners. What the Graves did means you lose out by showing yourself, you lose on the second sequence fully, Fiddlesticks kills your bottom lane as you saw, you're forced to do your wolves and loop back to grubs. This gives Fiddlesticks the dragon, and here's the big kicker. Yeah, your blue is spawning right now and the Fiddlesticks' whole top quadrant's gonna spawn, but you simply don't know what he's doing. You have to call his bluff. You know fully that the Fiddlesticks did not do his Gromp. You remember that when he ganked bot lane, he only had 40 CS, not 44. That means he did not finish the second rotation clear. So he goes back and does his Gromp, and basically he knows you will be a little bit confused as the Graves about what exactly the Fiddle's doing, so he's gonna try and sneak away the Raptors. This is definitely a higher risk play. But the benefit is you are now level 6 as Fiddlesticks, and the Graves really is stuck on the Raptors. He's forced to go ahead and push out mid lane because the Victor needs his assistance, and the Fiddlesticks now loops all the way back down to bottom lane and uses a brilliant level 6 ultimate to kill the bot lane, take away the ganking angle from the Graves, who's now simply forced to full clear all the way to the top, but the Fiddle gets to go back to base and full clear all the way to the bottom. The reason why the Fiddle's doing a good job here is purely because the Graves tried to overhelp on his lane when he shouldn't have, and the Fiddle's just doing the bare minimum to succeed. He is doing a good job though. The Graves put himself in this rough position And even though he will go ahead and kill the Volibear and it's going to be on him to try and pressure the game up, currently if we were to take stock in this game right now, you're thinking, okay, look, the Graves has outfarmed him. Yes, he's doing a good job overall, but the Fiddlesticks has had better lane impact, no question. Now, of course, you will see the Fiddlesticks look bot lane again for something, while Graves is going to position himself for the mid lane push to take the second grubs. He's going to have the Scion rotate over, the Victor rotate over. They're going to push out the Fiddlesticks, who for some reason is contesting this, and Graves will get the kill. So he's sitting in a good position now, and the Fiddlesticks makes this big mistake. He should have been realizing, hey, yeah, the Jinx and the Nami shouldn't have died to me a few times because it's kind of obvious what I'm doing, but at the same time, I did get the kills, I did get my Vayne fed. I know that Graves is on the top side going for all the grubs. Let me just snowball the Vayne and the Lulu. That's the win condition, and I can get fed too. It doesn't matter if Graves has 2 levels of me, if I play it that way. Obviously, the Fiddle died and didn't play it that way. Now Graves gets a lot of stuff, and I'm sure you've all been in the same situation too, yes? You sequence, you try to do things you can't because your team are dying, no prio. Your bot lane dies to ganks you think they shouldn't die to. You're still able to get fed and be 2 levels up, and now you're like, it's time to 1v9. Can my team play with me? Let's see if it's your fault or not. In this case, the Fiddle is going to try really hard to, gank bottom lane again. He's going to slide into the bottom bushes. He's probably imagining a world where Graves is just going to outfarm him anyway. I don't really want to fight the guy one-on-one because he has done a great job just immediately sequencing and impacting top side. Let's invest in bottom side. But this wasn't the right way to do it. The Graves has jungled better, except for his one little mistake that gave the Fiddlesticks the open opportunity to get bottom lane fed. However, Graves knows that that was a play for top side, and if I get really fed as Graves 2-3 levels up, I can carry any game, right? So of course, in the meantime, he's gone to mid lane to kill mid lane. He's decided at this point his sequencing's under control, and that's the biggest thing about this video. Go back and watch the gameplay. The Graves, even in the bad moments, sequenced well, controlled his camps well. Yeah, he was contested a little bit, but he at least made sure he was well positioned to feast on 1 or 2 lanes, even if he didn't get his bottom lane going. Now, because the Fiddlesticks wasted so much time, the Graves is able to go into his jungle and counter jungle. And I absolutely love that entire section that the Graves did to regain control. It was based upon the Fiddlesticks' mistakes, but high-level junglers and good junglers, such as yourselves, should be punishing enemy junglers for any little mistake they make. The Graves made one. The Fiddlesticks punished him. And then, he made a few too many, and the Graves just kept slingshotting back and has controlled this entire map phase. The Azir and the Victor, both 1-2-1. The top lane is a wash completely because of the Graves. Look, he's going to come out of base now and also get another kill. The Fiddlesticks has been trying to match the Graves at this point, waffled around and literally nothing at this stage, and he's the beneficiary of winning lanes. Now, yeah, sure, he helped win them, but he really hasn't kept the pressure up. Against good junglers, where laners are gonna maybe not give him free kills, the Fiddlesticks would lose this game within 25 minutes. Now though, the question is how can the Graves use his literally 3 level lead over the Fiddle to regain control and do the jungle diff thing where he can win? Because for everything that's gone on this game and whoever you want to blame for it, the Graves is winning, the Graves is hard fed, and he is in a position to carry. All he needs is the corpses to be somewhat sentient, and even this Jinx could become an absolute monster. Now, we do position ourselves well for the mid lane. Our Victor died, but we slingshot a huge amount of gunpowder across the wall and that blows up the Eagle Man. This gives Graves a positional advantage to secure himself a dragon, but the enemy team with the Vayne are quite still fed and you don't have an AD carry at all. Your Victor isn't also doing that hard, and honestly, the Scion for the ganks you gave him hasn't used it at all. So we're in a bit of a position where it's like, okay, we better take this and get out because, oh, here they come and oh, everybody survives magically. Phew. Finish off your quadrant if you can, don't stay to die for the Grugs, kite them out. If you need to base, please play it intelligently. Past 60 minutes, that means Herald's on the top side, you do have 6 grubs, we might as well try and flex into, hey, if my team are going to play the game, I can split push and hit turrets, right? Right? So we're going to go back to base buy and try and head that off. Now, as you would have seen, I got ahead of myself because the sign was merely warding. He goes back to top turret, and you would have seen the Fiddlesticks take the Raptors from Graves' jungle. And this is what I love when you have this kind of pressure mid lane. Take the turret, push up the waves. As a jungler, when you see that, you take the Raptors, you cut across, you steal his Grump, you steal his blue. In either order, but ideally the blue and the Grump very quickly in succession. We don't go for the wolves, who cares about those? Take the high value camps there. As you know, Graves will be resetting and coming to the side. You deny the counter jungling. If you can get all the camps, obviously get all the camps, but just don't bite off more than you can chew as a Fiddlesticks here or any jungler. You know at this point it's just about curbing the lead that Graves has because it is a huge lead. Now obviously Fiddlesticks' team makes sure to take the top tier 1. The Fiddlesticks will then control his jungle camps. In the meantime, Graves is taking the Herald. They're going to get a few more kills here. And yeah, he's 7-0-1 with a Hubris and a Collector building into next crit itemization, and he has 100% KP. He has a huge, huge lead, but he does need someone else to step up and help him in these picks and team fights. So far though, it's still winnable, and we're in a great position as a carry jungler. Now here's where a lot of you in these situations are going to blame your team and say, it's not my fault. And honestly, sometimes guys, it truly isn't. The victor here, as you see, gets caught out pushing way too far up to the voracious hat again. As we would say in South Africa, he gets hupsed and sent to the next dimension. What is your immediate reaction here? Just pauses. What is your idea of what the Graves could do next? Do we use our advantage with the rest of our team, even without the sign, and try and contest the voracious hats again? Do we let them do it, push up top wave, and then just try and yeet and steal? If we die, so be it. Or do we just ditch the whole quadrant, go mid lane, shove hard as hell to the tier 2 in the mid lane, and then go all the way down, take all the camps in the bottom side quadrant, sync up with the Scion, take that turret 2, go back to base, spend your cash money, and live to fight another day? Yes, right, the last one. The Graves doesn't do that though. He sits and tries to contest with this, and yes, you can say, well, you know, like Volibear was pushing bot, maybe Scion should be here. Yeah, but the Volibear is TP. You don't have a Victor, you have numbers disadvantage. Look at the numbers. It doesn't matter how fed you are sometimes, if your team is as a whole behind and you're the only fed one, you have a different responsibility. And ultimately, yes, as you see it play out, this is not your fault. It's not your fault that Scion has lost the lead you gave him and didn't even think about joining this fight. It's not your fault that the Victor just got caught out and inted and your bot lane died to ganks that they shouldn't die to. But what you can control, you should control. And even though I'm going to be sympathetic with you all here, I think the macro strategy here required a different play. And as he gets pushed off and he has to go back to base, you see the cost of his decision is that the red team gets to push down the tier 2 in the mid lane and fall back to the next dragon. And you would have noticed something very important about this Graves' stash, otherwise known as his inventory of goodness and riches. He still has a herald, so why couldn't we just say, well, Victor, you're an idiot, not my fault you're an idiot, and when you have a brain-eating fungus, it dies because there's nothing to eat. I'm gonna go mid lane, activate the herald, and, try and salvage the game. That's where my friends in coaching, we would say, it's not your fault, but you could have done something different that might have altered the outcome of this game. Because yes, as you can see, we go fighting for the dragon. Can he salvage something? Can he do something? No. We have numbers disadvantage. The enemy team is so far ahead. We need to look more so, how can I open the map up? Unfortunately, upon death, he now loses all of his camps. So now you're wondering, okay, but for Virkayu then, is it still possible to win this game and from Graves' position? Or do we just blame all our laners for all of the problems in this game? Now you can do that for sure, but I would still like to reframe your game into what can I do as a fed Graves with 100% KP to win? And if you think like that, you will start to climb a lot faster than the 99% of junglers who don't think like that and just blame everybody else in this game. That's the lesson. But how can we do it? Let's see. And I like what the Graves does next. We respawn, we clean up on the overpushing top laner. 8th kill. We still have the Herald. Activate that Daughter of a Baron and push. Try and get a turret, right? Offset some of the macro tragedy that we have suffering at the fingertips of evil. Make sure you don't overpush and die though. That is obviously a big no-no and what some of you might do. Please don't do that. Go back to base now. Control whatever you can in your jungle. Vision, camps. Just don't face check the fog of war. It is Mordor. That is where Scar lives. Do not be misled like Mufasa. Make sure you control whatever you can do within reason. Here's where things get interesting. You know that they're going to try and position for this quick Baron. They can. They got a Vayne, they got a Fiddle, they got a Lulu. And they have split pressure from not only Azir on the bottom side here, but also the Volibaba. So what we can do is if we know that they're doing it and we can't go into steal, contest, or whatever, try and make it pick in one of the split pushes as a unit, as a team. Ping, communicate, make the commitment. Get the kill, shove up the lane a little bit, and you're going to offset some of the Baron pressure that they have. You can also collapse on Azir and, give up a bit more, but you make that executive decision. Now, there is a certain level of risk for what the Graves is doing, but I like it because it looks like this game is just thrown in the toilet. But as I said, what can we do to actually 1v9 in the Graves' position? We have all the grubs, and that's why I love the grubs here. Push up, they got Baron, doesn't matter. You take the tier 2, you take the tier 3. They're split pushing with Vayne, they're split pushing with Azir. If you can get an inhib 2 offset, do so, but do not die because you will lose. They have Baron, then they're split pushing. Take what you can realistically, go back to base without anybody dying, and make the whoa, Vayne died very quickly. Well, she's dead. Now you got 2 waves of supers, or 1 wave of supers, rushing at your faces that you can feast on with the wave clear you have in order to, actually try and salvage this game. Unfortunately, and this definitely is not your fault, your Jinx dies. TP is committed. Well, anyway, can we contest perhaps this dragon? Unlikely. Best thing is just please, again, don't die. There's nothing you can do about your ADC playing like this. There's nothing you can do about anybody for what they do in this game. At this point, the Graves is doing the right things to try and come back. It is tough though, but as you can see from the double kill we just get on the bottom side after having to give up the dragon, it is possible technically. Unfortunately, you're now stuck between a rock and a very terrible and evil plays. Azir can just keep the pressure up. You now have to make the pick when they misposition. Unfortunately, if you overchase a Volibear, you have 0 peel and 0 ability to kill the Vayne, which is our priority target to kill. In the meantime, Azir's going to shove and take the third inhib, your team are going to get caught out, you're going to try base and you're going to get blown up and killed. So ultimately, despite 1 or 2 errors from the Graves where I think he could have changed the nature of the game, his team was so goddamn awful that I actually don't think he could have done anything. He's not at fault, he had 100% KP, the match history is linked below, and all his team had to do was reactivate a few neurons for a few moments and they might have been able to win. So yes, improve upon his mistakes to maybe give you a better chance of winning lanes and the ability to win. But sometimes you get depression and it just ain't your fault that you lost. However, if you want more control in your MMR, click this video to learn all about the coaching and the strategies necessary to climb as fast as possible. Do it now.